Suddenly, the doctor of medical sciences confessed, life after death exists. Welcome back, everyone. For today's video, we're going to be taking a look at this video that was posted by a channel called Mr. Death. And this video is titled, Suddenly, the Doctor of Medical Sciences Confessed. This is definitely a wild video. It was uploaded around 3 years ago, so it has been floating around out there for some time. But I haven't seen it yet. So I thought I would upload it to my channel so that we could take a look at it together. I will give a brief summary of what this video is about before we get into it. Basically, there are these two doctors. One of them is an atheist and one of them is a believer in God. And they're having a discussion about near-death experiences, the afterlife, heaven and hell. And things get pretty intense when the atheist doctor admits something really shocking. And it has to do with him thinking he might have actually died and come back to life. It's crazy, so let's just jump right into the video. Suddenly, the Doctor of Medical Sciences Confessed starts off with this title card that says, Dr. Sam Parnia, director of the ICU at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York, has studied more than 2,000 cases of people who have died and then come back to life. Then it goes on to say that Dr. Peter Sellers, who is the host of this interview, is an evangelical Christian, whereas Dr. Sam Parnia is an atheist. And the interview is about heaven, hell, near-death experiences, and the conversation gets very heated and intense. Now, as I mentioned before, Dr. Peter Sellers is an evangelical Christian, whereas Dr. Sam Parnia is an atheist. But throughout the course of this interview, Dr. Sam Parnia admits to things that are very interesting. He says that he doesn't believe in heaven or hell, but then he starts talking about his own personal experience with death and dying and coming back to life. And I'm going to go ahead and just play the clip so that you can hear it from him. I don't believe in heaven and hell. I'm an atheist. However, I've seen too many dramatic things to be a total skeptic about anything. I've seen too much unexplained stuff. You know, I think that there is something after death. I do. I think that the experience of death is not a uniform experience. I think that your religious beliefs, whatever they may be, shape your experience of death. I believe that if you believe in heaven, you go to heaven. If you believe in hell, you go to hell. I think that's what you'll find when you die. I don't mean to be flippant about it. I think your beliefs shape your experience of death. But I don't think that there's a universal experience of death that everybody goes through. I think that would be really nice if there was. I hope that there's something after death. I really do. I don't want to go out like a light switch going off. I hope that there's something more. I really do. And then Dr. Seller kind of pushes him a little bit further. He says, so you're saying that there's an afterlife, you just don't know what form it takes? And he responds, exactly. And later on in the interview, Dr. Sam Parnia says, I think what happens to us when we die is very, very individual. I don't believe in an absolute truth in terms of what happens after death. I think it's very relative, and I think it depends on your beliefs. I believe that if you believe in heaven, you go to heaven. I'm absolutely convinced of that. I believe that if you believe in hell, you go to hell. I'm absolutely convinced of that. This interview was very fascinating to me because here is a man who doesn't believe in God, doesn't believe in heaven or hell, but he believes that there is something after death. And he even goes on to talk about how death is not always a clean cut, like turning a light switch off kind of thing. Sometimes you can have a near-death experience. Sometimes you can come back to life. And he has studied over 2,000 cases of people who have died and come back to life. So let me play just a few more clips of what he had to say. We have studied over 2,000 patients who have died and come back to life. So I've seen lots of patients who've had near-death experiences. In fact, we've now studied well over 2,000 people who have died and come back to life. I can tell you that every single patient that has died and come back to life and has had a near-death experience has told me that there is something after death. Every single patient has told me that they don't want to return from the dead, that they want to stay where they were. They describe it as being somewhere else, being in another place. Some of them describe being in a tunnel. Some of them describe seeing a bright white light. Some of them describe seeing their lives flash before their eyes. Some of them describe meeting deceased relatives or friends or religious figures. Some of them describe being in a different state of consciousness where they feel that they are no longer in their physical body. They feel like they are somewhere else, being in another place, being in another dimension, being in another world. It's all very, very relative to the individual. Some of them describe it as being a terrible experience, whereas others describe it as being a wonderful experience. I think that the experience of death is very relative. I don't think there's an absolute truth in terms of what happens after death. I think it depends on your beliefs. I believe that if you believe in heaven, you go to heaven. I'm absolutely convinced of that. I believe that if you believe in hell, you go to hell. I'm absolutely convinced of that. He also talks about how sometimes when someone dies, their vital organs shut down, but their brain activity doesn't. And sometimes when their brain activity is monitored, they can actually hear them talking, singing, praying, screaming, yelling, and they will actually respond to questions that are asked of them. Later on in the interview, Dr. Peter Sellers asks him, "So, you're saying that there's an afterlife. You just don't know what form it takes." And Dr. Sam Parnia responds, "Exactly." And then Dr. Peter Sellers presses him a little bit further, and he says, "Are you saying that you have died and come back to life? Have you had a near-death experience?" And he responds, "Yes, I have had a near-death experience. I was in cardiac arrest. I was brought back. There was a period of time when I wasn't breathing, when my heart wasn't beating, when I wasn't alive, when my brain activity stopped. During that period of time, I wasn't in my body. I wasn't there. I was somewhere else. I know that there's something after death. I know that what we do in our lives is not what determines what happens to us when we die. I believe that if you believe in heaven, you go to heaven. I'm absolutely convinced of that. I believe that if you believe in hell, you go to hell. I'm absolutely convinced of that. And I believe that those beliefs shape your experience of death. I believe that those beliefs determine what happens to you when you die. As I mentioned before, this interview was incredibly fascinating to me. Here is a man who doesn't believe in God, doesn't believe in heaven or hell, but he firmly believes that there is something after death. And he knows this because he has studied over 2,000 cases of people who have died and come back to life. And in all of those cases, every single person told him that there is something after death. What do you guys think of this video? Let me know in the comments below. Did you find it interesting? Were you shocked when the doctor admitted that he doesn't believe in heaven or hell, but believes in an afterlife? Let me know in the comments below. If you did enjoy this video, please hit the like button. And if you love my content, please consider becoming a member on my support page. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching.